This time, I'm gonna try to record myself doing this work, uh, mostly for myself, just for documentation, but also every time I've had to work on the car, I encounter some wild thing that I didn't see online, and I'm like, how come I can't find anybody else having this problem? So I'm also doing a lot of stuff solo, everything so far. So what we're going to start today is the is38 install on the GTI Mk7 2015. Today is just about getting the car up on jacks and trying to get the turbo out. See how that goes. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to disconnect the battery, and then I'm going to take out the entire intake. I'll probably leave the snorkel because I don't need to get here except for down here at the coolant sensor. We're going to work on removing this coolant line right here, and then these charge coils. Like this whole harness needs to be free so we have more room to work. Okay, lesson learned. I walked away for a moment and the coolant was falling into the pan, but for a moment it missed and it just started to run down the garage drive flooring, whatever. So now I got to clean all this up. So here's another thing that you can just add to the list of stuff I didn't know I was gonna have to do, or ended up being harder. So I'm removing this coolant line and I need to get this hose off. This is the first one, but every video I've ever seen is like, boop, like this thing just pops off. No. So people recommend getting picks, and I also recommend that, and you have to like work the pick underneath, but you have to be very careful not to poke a hole in the hose. And I still haven't gotten it off yet, but basically that's what I'm doing. I'm having to use this pick to like work it off, and I hope that it comes off easily. Okay, the next thing that's killing me, I'm just trying to get a coolant line out so that I have more room to work. I haven't even started on the turbo yet. I'm like 2 hours into this thing. And I'm trying to get this line off. And I'm being very gentle with my pick because I don't want to poke a hole in the hose. But man, you know, all the videos I watch, the cars are like brand new or something like that. So these things are just, it's really hard to get off. Like the leverage I need to be able to pull that hose off of this coolant line is nuts. Okay, I got it off. Here's my amateur tip. I don't know if it's a freaking pro tip, and if this is how you're supposed to do it, nobody freaking said anything to me. I use the hose clamps to work the clamp past this hump, this nipple, I don't know what you call it. Because I feel like even with the clamps at their tightest setting, you're still always kind of getting caught up on it. Like once you let the clamps loose a little bit, that clamp just relaxes slightly, which just adds more tension. So I worked it all the way past that with the hose clamps, took the clamps off, used the pick a little bit more, worked it off. And that's how I'm gonna hit the rest of them. All right, so making progress. Finally started on the turbo like late in the evening. We got quite a bit taken out. There was something that was really gnarly, which was like this breather hose on the inlet pipe. It's really hard to get off, and I didn't want to have to like break anything, so I actually just removed the entire inlet pipe from the turbo. And I think when I'm putting everything back together, I'll just put that back on. Now I'm struggling with something back here, so it's really hard to see this metal piece right here, this guy. I've removed the bolts holding it in, but now I need to pull it away from the turbo, and it's really hard because like I'm trying to use a flathead screwdriver to do it, but haven't been able to like lock in the right leverage or something. And anytime I'm doing something that feels wrong, I'll just stop because I don't want to break something. And something about the amount of force that I'm having to apply to this doesn't feel right. So I may need to get a camera in here to try to figure out if I'm getting the right leverage. Okay, update. So I had to remove a couple, like 4 of these I think they're called injection actuators or something like that. Pretty nervous about that because, you know, I didn't want to have to remove them. But got a little cover over here, and I removed the downpipe. I did not want to have to do that. I literally had unbolted almost everything else except for where it connected to the catback, and it just didn't seem like it was going to happen without it. So downpipe is off. I'm gonna tell you, that thing is heavier than it looks, like a lot heavier. I got the turbo out, and let me tell you, this oil return line is no joke. I spent an hour, maybe two, just trying to get it out from the engine block, and eventually was able to pry it off of the turbo. I'll still have to take that off of the engine block. And the fucking turbo. This is not a job I would recommend somebody do alone. Here's the old turbo, and here's the new one. I've moved everything over from the old turbo to the new one. So you can move the wastegate actuator from the IS20 to the IS38, which is what I've done here. The IS38 wastegate actuator connector is reversed from the IS20. So everybody's like, make sure you plug it in before you do this thing. I got this harness just to make sure that I didn't have that problem. I could like get it in, and then I'd still have some extra room to plug it in if I need to. What else? I think that's it. I think I'm stalling. Okay, I think this is going in the car now. Pretty nervous, but we'll see. Like, I'm just gonna put down for a second. I'll start my back strength. Oh, by the way, today's my birthday. I'm 41. Let the record show. I think this has to come off, honestly. I don't see how this goes in. Try it again. Okay. Slightly more leverage. Oh yeah. Okay. That was the fucking thing. Oh yeah. For a second. Chill. Mostly wanted to record this just to kind of really talk about this wastegate actuator. So I don't know if you can see this, but like down here where my finger is, there's this tiny little bar right here below that nut. It's really hard to see because the camera doesn't want to focus on it, but right here there's a bar that goes this way, and that's the thing that has to be tuned once everything's installed to the right voltage. I'm a little nervous because of how I need to reach it. Like once the downpipe is back in here, I'm gonna have to reach back here and like rotate this thing with my fingers and just pray that I can get this right. And then you're supposed to like tighten the bolt. Dude, I have no idea how I'm gonna do that. Like, so here's, okay, turbo is in. I'm working on the downpipe right now, putting that back on. I have to say that putting the downpipe on back on was actually much easier than I thought. I think for a long time, whenever I would look down here and I'd see the downpipe and all the stuff down there with the heat shielding, I would just I'd feel like really intimidated. I would not be as like nervous about taking the downpipe out, and I would just immediately do it like it's nothing. So update on the turbo itself, and this is where things got kind of funky. Now I'll go over to the IS20. On the turbo, you have this wastegate, like that's what this little valve is. And so this is what leads to like overboost, underboost if it's not calibrated correctly. And what connects to here is the wastegate, the actuator. And so on the IS20, I had one here. If you remember one of my previous videos, I was talking about how I probably should have just spent the extra money on the one that came with the IS38 pre-calibrated, but I didn't. I kept the one I had to try to save $400. I shouldn't have. I regret it now. And here's why. So I took the IS20 wastegate actuator off. I put it on the IS38, and it looks identical. Like, I mean, it looks very similar. There's a little rod that screws into the end of here. And there's a little boot over here and a motor. And when you put this thing in the car, it has a range of voltage that determines like how far this will like open and close. And if it opens too far, or if the range of motion is too much, it usually means that the voltage is just out of range. And so when you run a test on the like basic startup settings, where whenever you start the car, it will test the range of motion, and if the voltage is out of range, it'll say like, you know, exited due to safety. So the range that you want to be on the IS38 is anywhere between like 3.5 and 3.9 volts. And when I was using the OBD11 to try to find the voltage on the IS38 with the IS20 wastegate actuator, it never got above 3.2. I went online and I found out that people were doing this thing where they were like, well, you have to calibrate it when it's closed. So because it was always partially open, they were like, you got to push on this actuator arm while you're calibrating it. And so I tried that, and it would fluctuate a little bit, but it never really went up as high as I was expecting, and it just kind of felt like wrong. And I was like, I really don't want to break this. So I never actually got my IS38 on OBD11 to tell me that it was within 3.5 to 3.9 volt range. So what I did was I went into the car and I would tweak the voltage on the rod, extending it until I got to about where it, like about what people online were saying as far as like how much range it should have when it's resting. And I just kept doing that until like its starting range, until it would say it was like past the safety limits. And I would keep bringing it in and going into the car, restarting it, and kept doing this over and over and over and over again until it got within a range that felt safe. So my hypothesis is that because I was outside of safety ranges and I kept bringing it closer and closer, that I was within the maximum kind of like spectrum of safety. The range of motion on the IS38 that I saw was like, it was very little. So here's what I could be looking at, right? Best case scenario, nothing is fine, nothing is wrong, everything's great, awesome. Medium case scenario, I get like overboost and underboost because the wastegate isn't opening far enough or not closing far enough. Worst case scenario, it doesn't close or doesn't function properly, and I go into limp mode where the car will just basically like go down to like the lowest gear or something and just goes into like limp mode because it's like, whoa, you're like way outside of safety range. I got it within where it was passing the startup process, and it was sitting around 3.2 without me pushing on it. And so yeah, I just had to put the downpipe on it, and that's where I'm at now. Here we go. All right, I'm gonna start the car. I think I got everything buttoned up. Update, you probably can't hear me very well because of the engine, but we'll try. So car's on. I somewhat stripped this bolt on the V-band clamp, so I hope I don't have to take that off anytime soon. When I first turned it on last night, there was white smoke coming off of the turbo, and there's actually a little bit still coming off of it. I'm hoping that this is like manufacturer process, like oil that's burning off, or coolant that was like somewhere around there. I just hope it burns off. It seems to have like reduced quite a bit. I'm gonna keep my eye on it. We're checking the coolant level. We're burping the coolant system right now, and the fan is on. So that means that the cooling system is working. We're sitting at about 200 degrees steady, and I'm waiting a couple minutes for this to go down. If it doesn't go down, close it, and then later on this afternoon take it for a test drive, and then an oil change after that. Okay, so driving at night, trying out, this is the first test drive with the turbo, and I'm like laughing maniacally. I'm about to get on the freeway, but like I'm laughing a little maniacally because it's freaking insane. All right, I'm about to get on the freeway. Okay, the job is done. The car really needs to get cleaned. Did an oil change also. So I took it for a test drive. I usually will drive up my street over here and then get on the freeway. Good news is that any of that smoke that I was worried about coming off of the turbo, I think it was just like factory lubricant burn off. I can still kind of smell it, but I mean, every time like a good amount of coolant also kind of spilled into the engine bay too. I mean, as much as I tried to keep it clean, like, you know, you pop off those hoses and then some of it leaks out. Also a little bit of oil when I was cleaning up spilled down there. So, okay. I'm laughing because like it's too much power. it's too much power. Put it into sport, get onto one of the other roads, like it just, the launch isn't, like, just the amount of like acceleration is just insane. So assuming nothing goes wrong, I'm gonna have to keep checking my data logs on my access port to see if like my boost pressure is right and all of the wastegate stuff that I tried to do, you know, relatively like by feel. If everything works, like, this is tremendous. Like, the next thing would be rear sway bar and coilovers, but yeah, I'm excited.